these work sessions, there is no public comment. You can join us tonight at 7 p.m. for the formal meeting where you can share your comments. We, of course, welcome your feedback anytime. You can email us at council.comments@slc.gov, or you can also send us mail at 145476 Salt Lake City, Utah 84114. You can also call our 24-hour phone line 801-535-7654 and leave a message. Comments we receive on agenda topics are shared with council members, and also that are posted on our council website, slc.gov/council. Our first agenda item is an informational item, updates from the administration. Joining us at the table, Andrew Johnston, Director of Homeless Policy and Outreach, and Weston Clark, Director of Community Outreach. And it is your time.
All right. Good afternoon, Council. We'll go ahead and begin. Going to the next slide. And this is, of course, our regular and somewhat updated slide, reminding folks to go to shapeslc.gov, which is where we are asking all departments and divisions to put their community engagement opportunities. So a one-stop shop for all of that. Recommend you go there whenever you want to engage. Next slide.
Weston?
Yeah.
Your old website, it was like feedback. What was it?
Yeah, we called it the feedback page.
Yeah. Does it the old page still works and redirects to this new one?
There it is. The other page ultimately I think became a landing page that linked to a lot of the division pages. There might be some old projects on there. I think we are still rolling them all over, but it's been sort of our expectation now that all the new stuff will go on Shape SLC. Okay. So that should, and we'll be rolling out Shape SLC more publicly very soon here. Okay.
I attended one of my community councils the other night, and they were talking about the old website, you know, as the place to send feedback, and I was like, I think there is a new website, and so I want to make sure that it still works or is going to the right place.
Thank you. We definitely need to follow up on that and make sure we're in transition right now, Councilmember. I appreciate that. But we will get everybody on page with the new one because it's a great place to go. So thanks. All right. Not a lot of updates today, but the planning and CRA, we have a few updates. The draft plan for the Northwest Community Plan and its first public hearing had its first public hearing on January 28th. But don't worry if you've missed that, because their second public hearing is tentatively scheduled for February 25th. So you can go to Shape SLC and you can sign up for notifications on that. You can be notified for future updates. The zoning amendments asked for by the City Council to expand housing options in SLC have also been posted to Shape SLC, and the public input period has started. Public engagement is expected to run into March with multiple methods and meetings for the community to learn about the proposals and provide feedback. Go to Shape SLC and sign up for that as well. The draft updates for the Avenues and Capitol Hill community plans are moving along, with the Avenues plan nearing completion. The final round of public engagement will follow as soon as the draft plan is published. Capitol Hill engagement is ongoing, with several engagement events scheduled this month at various locations in the community. I've got those listed on the next slide that we'll show in just a minute. And you can also go to Shape SLC for that project as well and keep up to date on that. Finally, the Ballpark Next 45-day engagement period ended yesterday, and the resulting needed proposed zoning modifications based on the public's input will be brought to the Planning Commission and start that public process as well. So that will be coming really soon. Next slide is just those Capitol Hill engagement opportunities. If anyone would like to go to those are the 3 coming up this month. And that is all I have for engagement today.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Next slide, please. Current utilization for the resource centers is at 97%, excuse me. I will say that there are some availability at the medically vulnerable program in Sandy, which is those who over the age of 55 with medical conditions. That is a process to get into that. So if people are seeing folks who meet that criteria, recommend contacting us and help us get them into services. EIM work, there's no EIMs currently scheduled, mostly due to lack of large camps we've seen, but a lot of individuals across the city and our rapid response teams will be in Jordan Park, Victory Road, southeast section of the city, which is kind of Herman Frank's going south into Sugar House areas, Memory Grove Avenues, and the West 9 line as well this week. Next slide. Starting from the bottom going up, thank you very much to council members and others who participated in the point in time count this year. Last week, we appreciate all the volunteers, very helpful. The more volunteers we have, the better trained they are, the better the count is, and the more accurate we get. So thank you again. Resource Fair this coming February 13th at the the Geraldine E. King Resource Center on 7 South. And then Justice Court will happen on the 6th, this Friday, at DWS on 7 South as well. And then ongoing Code Blues. We haven't had a lot this winter, but when we do need help. And so Unsheltered Utah is coordinating that effort here locally downtown at 2 churches, and they can always use volunteers, so appreciate your help getting that word out to everyone else. Any questions?
Go ahead.
Thanks, Angie. Back to the MVP program. Do our resource centers kind of pick people out that are over 55 who may and send them there? Or
Yeah, so if somebody's already in, say, the Gail Miller, the Geraldine E. King, and they meet the criteria, they will work with them to get down to that center as well.
Okay, great. Thanks. Appreciate that. I thought so. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you for giving us the update. We're moving on right now to item number 2, which is an ordinance, disposition of alleys and street text amendment. Joining us at the table, Brian Fulmer, Council Policy Analyst, and then joining us from the administration side, Chrissy Gilmore, Planning Manager. Oh, or not. Right. Well, Planning Director. And staff.
Yeah, we've got Nick Norris here with Ben Buckley and me. This is a proposal initiated by the Planning Commission that would modify the section of city code related to city-owned rights-of-way, including alleys, streets, and street segments. The proposal includes, among other things, closing rights-of-way to public use where the city retains ownership, and also vacating these rights-of-way in which the city relinquishes ownership. The code currently includes the process and standards for alleys, but standards for closing and vacating streets have not been codified. One notable change would treat partial street vacations adjacent to low-density residential areas the same as alley vacations and not charge the applicants for the vacated street property, as is the current practice. I'll turn it over to Ben and Nick.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. This is the text amendment for disposition of streets and alleys. Next slide, please. As Brian mentioned, this was initiated by Planning Commission back in February of 25 to modify the Chapter 1452. The big concern there was that streets weren't included and that there was some abuse of the lack of use policy. So that wanted to be cleaned up. In September of 25, Planning Commission forwarded a positive recommendation with a modification to change a date. Next slide, please. Right now, there are 4 consideration factors. Each applicant must meet at least one. Those 4 are lack of use, public safety, urban design, and community purpose. That lack of use, that one could be utilized if you built a fence across the alley or a garage in the alley on city property. You could utilize that lack of use. So a self-inflicted lack of use there. The proposed ordinance includes 7 factors. The first 4 are new. Those are impact on general plan, impact to property, public utilities, and size factors. We're keeping 3 of the 4 existing factors. Oh, sorry, next slide. I'm so sorry. So those first 4, again, those are the new ones. Impact on general plan, impact to property, public utilities, and size factors. The 5, 6, and 7 there, those are existing. We're not changing those except with some modifications to the lack of use. If the illegal obstruction existed before April 12th, 1995, if the applicant can prove that, we will accept that as a lack of use consideration. The urban design policy factor that was deleted, we believe that that is addressed in a couple of other policy considerations here. Next slide, please. Method of disposition, we are adding 2 new methods, exchange of land and the simple closure for public or private purpose. We are also modifying what it means to be low-density residential use in terms of an alley or street vacation. Right now, it's not defined. This proposed code would define it to be anything less than 25 units per acre, according to the applicable land use map.
Yes, go ahead.
Is that the same definition we use on all the zoning as far as the other works?
So in our community plans, every single community plan has a different definition of residential. So this is kind of where we're going based on reality of what some of our low-density residential areas are zoned at the highest, or developed at, not zoned, but the existing density in some of our higher areas that are considered low-density residential.
And is this, I mean, so there's not a state standard then? If we don't have a standard, the state probably doesn't have a standard, or do other cities have a standard on what they consider low density? I mean, because I guess at the league, I've seen sometimes where they're talking like 5 or 6, houses per acre. And we're like, we're a lot lower than that.
Yeah, what the current for disposition code says is that it's zoned for low-density residential. So some of our zones will have that term in it. Some of them that have equal density won't. And so that there is some gray area there.
Okay.
Next slide, please. One of the biggest changes here is that we are including streets right now. As Brian mentioned, the process to vacate streets is not codified. We've kind of gone back and forth lately, whether we are using the alley vacation process or the 1999 City Council policies that were never formally codified into our code. This code would codify that. It would treat streets as kind of the same process as alleys. Next slide, please. We are also including some public hearing requirement changes. Right now, all vacation and closure requests must go to Planning Commission for a recommendation. We get a lot of street vacations and alley vacations that don't get comments from the public or from city departments, and so the Planning Commission is kind of a formality at that point. These new requests under this new code, they would be exempt from a Planning Commission hearing if that's the case, if there are no public comments or comments against from city departments. Instead, City Council would receive a Planning Commission or a Planning Director recommendation instead of a Planning Commission recommendation. Next slide, please. We did have a couple of things come up after Planning Commission. One of them was from our planning city attorneys. They recommended adding an additional exemption to when payment would be required. That would be if the applicant is a government entity, like a school district or something like that. And then after Planning Commission, the engineering division provided some additional comments and recommendations, and they are here today to discuss those with you. Next slide, please. That is all I have for you.
Any questions? So a quick question related to that date that is set on, self-inflicting problems or, obstructions.
Sure.
What is it, April 12th, 1995? Why that specific date? I'm confused.
That's when other than our mixed-use zoning consolidation, that's when the current zoning code was adopted. And so it's a date that is found throughout their code of where we've drawn a line in the sand that say these regulations apply to this date because of that. And, this is maybe not great to admit, but prior to that, we don't have a lot of great records on what was permitted.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for us to track what was allowed and what wasn't and things like that. So that's a kind of a line in the sand for those kinds of things.
So if I, yes, so if I, build something on April 13, 1995, obstructing the alley, that wouldn't be a reason to me requesting.
Yeah, for example, a fence at that point in time would have required a permit April 1st, that same year it wouldn't have.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And will you clarify the fee piece of this? There was we are waiving fees for other government entities. What is the fee that applies to the new code for someone that wants to?
I believe it's still fair market value.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So that hasn't gone away. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. My question is, do we have a list of alleys that are waiting to be vacated
That are going to be vacated.
or have been requested for alley vacation?
We get about 10 to 12 requests a year for alleys and maybe half that for streets.
Yeah, and we discussed a few here recently. So, and you believe that this process will streamline and clarify what the right process is?
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing is that it updates the factors to consider to match kind of current pressing issues, development issues in the city. And obviously, it adds something for streets, which we don't currently have in our code. So we end up having to rely on state code or, a 25-year-old city council policy that was never codified. So one, this is a better practice for that. Then we're operating on consistent process and factors for decision making.
Remember, you had a question?
Regarding the change that would allow us to waive the fee for another government entity, ensuring that it's just a practice that we could have, but wouldn't require that we need to do that. Is that right?
I think that's,
I'm not exactly sure how it's written, but I think it just allows you to.
As another thing in addition to fair market value.
yeah, we can verify that.
Okay.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Seems like we extend our questions here, so thank you for the presentation. So we have it for council action on March 10.
One thing I do want to bring up, so after this went through the planning commission, the engineering division did send some comments back, and they want, there's probably some things that they would prefer added to the code, which maybe planning doesn't necessarily agree with. And so that's something that we want to rectify. Obviously, we want to both get on the same page here. And so we may need some guidance from council on some of that stuff. I think the biggest is that there's some of the comments relate to whether or not the city should ever vacate an alley if there's ever any utilities, both public utilities that the city owns or like electricity or other service providers like communication there or not. So that's something that we would want to consider. I think, and engineering's here and they can provide some more detail on that. For us, our primary consideration with that is that we don't want to necessarily put something in our code that takes away the discretion of the decision-making process. So it might be a factor to consider, and that's utilities are in there, but I'll let Mark talk more about what their changes are.
Thanks, Nick. Mark Stevens, city engineer. One of the things that we try and maintain in our public ways is the accessibility for utilities, whether they're existing, whether we anticipate them in the future. The desire isn't to hold on just to something because the city owns it and we just want to continue owning that and maintaining that in the future. We oftentimes, with our franchise utilities as well as public utilities, we don't know what future needs are. Some examples are fiber optic network. When that came in, we had to have place for them. Many, if not most, of these alleyways and streets that are being proposed to be vacated have private franchise utilities and public utilities in them. So if and when an alleyway is vacated, ideally the language should be put in any sort of plat or legal language or legal descriptions that an easement in perpetuity is included to provide future and existing maintenance, upgrades, installations for utilities. Oftentimes when these alleys get vacated, even though that language is maybe provided in the legal descriptions, people will put up fences, they will put up things that restrict access for a Rocky Mountain Power transformer blows during the summer, during air conditioning. They don't have access, gates are locked, people will install things in these alleyways that are vacated, and then it further restricts that sort of access despite the language being very clear if the alleyway or street is vacated. So one of the things that engineering we want to do is maintain a uniform public right-of-way with access for existing and future utilities. We don't always know what those future utilities may be as we continue on in the 21st century. One of the things that came up recently as an example is you've got your last mile between transit autonomous vehicles, and where are they going to be stationed and parked? Some of these underused alleyways or such could be places where they could be parked and stationed, ready to go for that last mile transfer between home and a transit facility. Small example, but sort of things that we can't always anticipate what future utility needs are, and it's much more difficult to reacquire that property that is vacated than to just maintain it and keep it. So that was engineering's position, is just to make sure that we keep in mind from a utility perspective, franchised and public utilities, that many of these alleyways have existing, if not most, have existing utilities that require this need, and a future easement, even if alleyways are vacated.
So there was this proposed ordinance is not proposing to vacate alleys. Is proposing to streamline the process and clarify the process. So, that was I just wanted to clarify that because, from your comments, it sounded like it was like we're vacating a bunch of alleys and we're not. But the solution on easements makes sense to me. I mean, we do easements for public utilities all the time, everywhere. And I felt like that is an easy it should be included in the language when the alleys become vacated. It still doesn't stop people from not following them, but that is the risk across the board, even currently right now. So it totally makes sense to me to put this on the books, clarify it, and ensure that there is additional language to ensure that the easements are clear and that people understand what they're signing up. I will be interested to find out if there are ways of enforcing on that and maybe creating some revenue for the enforcement cost, right, for people that don't obey their easements, and even to your point, challenging and disturbing the public utilities and the reconnection of power in some cases, or which is inflicting pain on their neighbors because they didn't follow the rules. But I understand the concern from public utilities, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think easement it really is a clear way of solving that issue. Any other questions, comments?
More of a comment, but I appreciate both the cleaning up of this, the streamlining the approach. What that translates to in my brain is a highest and best use of staff time to respond to these requests. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness in this. And second, I also appreciate engineering thinking about the future, because autonomous vehicles will be here, they are coming. We need to plan for how they will impact our streets and the movement of people on our streets. So thank you for raising that.
Okay. Any other portion to this that we want to add? Well, thank you so much for...
Just real quickly, I think one of the things that we need to do is rectify some of our comments. So we'll be probably just working directly with your staff to provide an updated ordinance with that to you. We probably won't transmit that at this point. We'll just work directly with staff to get that back and forth.
So that timeline, you think that you're probably going to need a little more time?
I don't see the timeline on top of my head, but I guarantee you we can meet that.
We have it on for a public hearing on February 17th, so 2 weeks from tonight, and then potential council action on March 3rd, I believe. 10th, sorry.
We'll get something to you.
Yeah. Look, from the constituents' perspective, and you have heard it a lot, probably public utilities too, there's always talk about the alleys and how, opinions about what we're doing and what we're not doing and what we should be doing about the alleys. And I appreciate that there is a clear policy on the books for people to follow and to take advantage of, and there is not a dark process. So I'm sure that we can figure out the community benefits as well, a clear process in this manner. So thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to item number 3, this is an ordinance regarding the Rio Grande Master Plan and Zoning Map Amendment. Joining us at the table, we're going to have Kate Warrett, Council Policy Analyst, Nick Norris, State at the table, Cassie Younger, Senior Planner, Kelsey Lindquist, Planning Manager, Wayne Mills, CRA Senior Project Manager. And it is, Kate, it's your time.
Great. In December 2024, the City Council, acting as the CRA board, endorsed the Rio Grande District Vision and Implementation Plan. This master plan and zoning map amendment initiated by the CRA incorporates the district plan changes into the city's downtown plan and zoning map. This includes rezoning 32 parcels and from GMU to Downtown Secondary Central Business District, or D4. You have a public hearing scheduled for March 10th with tentative action on March 24th. There's a couple of policy questions you may consider associated with this. You may consider asking how the general plan and zoning changes will be implemented over time, and any fiscal or operational impacts to the city associated with adopting these changes. And with that, I'll turn it over to planning staff.
Okay, thank you. You can go to the next slide. All right. The Rio Grande zoning map and general plan amendments are mayor-initiated petitions represented by the CRA. They are requesting an amendment to the downtown plan and the rezoning of 32 parcels from GMU Gateway Mixed Use to D4 Secondary Central Business District. Next slide. The areas subject to these amendments are 2 blocks between 500 West and 600 West, in between the Rio Grande Depot to the east and the intermodal hub to the west, from 200 South to 400 South. Despite being centrally located with a high concentration of transportation options and walkable amenities like the Gateway Mall, the Delta Center, and Pioneer Park, this area remains largely underdeveloped. Next slide. The proposed general plan amendment takes place in the Depot District section of the downtown plan. Currently, this section outlines a catalytic project named the Hub Implementation Strategy. The petition proposes to replace this catalytic project with the Rio Grande District project based off of CRA's Rio Grande District Vision and Implementation Plan. Both catalytic projects envision 300 South as a festival street from Rio Grande to 600 West, with high-density mixed-use buildings to the north and south. The updated plan is more detailed, with its complete visualization of the 2 blocks, a further emphasis in sustainability, green loop incorporation, an arts campus, walkable blocks, and high-quality urban design. Next slide. The plan amendment also proposes to adjust the mid-block walkways to reflect those outlined in the Rio Grande Vision and Implementation Plan. The adjustments made are along CRA property lines and better accommodate future development. Next slide. The zoning map amendment proposes to rezone 32 parcels within the neighborhood, which includes CRA properties and some owned by the University of Utah. These would go from Gateway Mixed Use to D4. Next slide. As you can see in the comparison table, these 2 zones are extremely similar in terms of setbacks, use, and design standards. The biggest difference between the two zones are the allowed height. The minimum height in the GMU is 75 feet with a maximum of 180, while the permitted height in the D4 zone by right is 200 feet, with design review required from 200 up to 600 feet. Next slide. Buildings over 200 feet in the D4 zone must go through a design review process and incorporate at least one of the elements listed. This can include affordable housing, publicly accessible open space, or enhanced ground floor use. Next slide. When reviewing a general plan and map amendment, staff reviews compliance with the general plan. This petition aligns with Plan Salt Lake and the downtown plan, which principles include a vibrant and active, walkable, connected downtown. Since this is a mayor-initiated petition, no community benefit is required. Next slide. And then on October 22nd, 2025, the Planning Commission voted unanimously positive recommendation to the City Council.
Council members? Councilmember Dugan.
Yeah, I appreciate the plan and everything else. Of course, I'm always concerned about 500 West and making sure that our right-of-way is impacted there, and also that we have good curb cuts. So if we do want to, there are some other ideas out there that we're not cutting off future ideas with the plan and having the conversations about the curb cuts on 500 or what we have going on the 500 corridor throughout, and the making sure that there's also going to be an opportunity to go east-west with this plan in the areas, because and I'm just looking through the plan itself and making sure that we do have some opportunity to grow east-west instead of just north-south and everything east of this plan, and not also west. And just throwing that out there as my concerns, and making sure that we still have that ability to, as anything else, first contact with the enemy and the plan falls away. So you got to be able to adjust.
Yeah, I can address that. I'm Wayne Mills. I'm one of the project managers with the CRA. Yeah, this particular plan, or at least the zoning amendment, as well as the plan, really stops at the property lines along 5th West. So we don't see it causing necessarily any issues for any future plans along 500 West. Some of the development that's on the north block closest to 500 West is actually the last phase of development, so we're quite a ways off from seeing anything happen there. So don't anticipate any conflicts.
Thank you.
Do you have a question? Yes, go ahead.
Is there any intention for the city to sell any of the property as we move through this project, or are we intending to retain ownership of what soil we can and develop through joint partnerships?
Yeah, our intent is to do a ground lease for CRA-owned property, so we retain the ownership, and then we can kind of continue to have control and collect certain fees to help long-term maintenance.
Thank you.
Yeah. You go ahead.
Thank you. I know TechLink study wanted to move the rails. I just wanted to confirm, do we know for certain they're going to build on 4th West and not 5th West? So TechLink is UDOT and UTA, because I just pulled up their map from the study itself, and that was a proposed line before. I just wanted to make sure we're not conflicted with the state's plans currently to extend the rail line.
We'll verify that, but I believe that they did keep things on 400 West because that's where the old rail lines were in the corridor
Okay,
place.
'cause I know, and I just want to bring it up because, and I know Councilmember Dugan also is in contact with the Rio Grande Plan and the different advocates from it, but it's my understanding that there's different proposals for this area, and so I would love to be inclusive of those future development opportunities, and I'm a bit sensitive to that, but certainly if we could make sure that UTA is not expanding on 5th West, because I'm looking at the map online, and even the Station Central shows it near 6 West, and then the old Greektown station, they're still planning on hosting. So I just wanted to understand if that's going to change some of the TSA zoning also.
And it was, just to add to that, is my understanding, pardon me, that it is 4th West, but we also have an easement that we're protecting down 4th South, because there has been talk of running a spur down 4th South, so we've protected a 20 to 25 foot wide easement to ensure that that's protected.
And I would like to highlight that this is a zoning amendment to, to the area that allows to, get closer to the vision that the CRA put together for the Rio Grande plan. Without the zoning, without the rezone, we cannot really vision, the height and the projects that we dream to do there. So this is a step in the right direction towards that vision of getting there. There is a lot of talk in the town about the other things that could happen in the right of way. But when we talked about this last time, about the Rio Grande project, the train one, the administration, the CRA staff told us that the streetscapes and that area was the last thing that was going to happen, because all of the development we need to have the money to build all that. So I remember the conversation that they were saying that the work on the street level was not going to happen. It wasn't going to be the first thing that the city was going to push for. But so I'm excited that this rezone is in front of us to get a little closer to that dream that the city has been talking about for a long time. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm generally supportive of the D4 zoning. I think this is really appropriate for the area. Just wanted to ask, is there any TSA zoning at all extending near the line?
The TSA zoning was all replaced, so there's none of it.
Okay, it's just got it.
It's an MU, whatever, depending on the scale of the TSA zone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we changed the TSA zone. Any other questions?
Just to confirm, the orange line is what the preferred line's called, and it is on 400 West.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. We're excited to see this come a little closer to reality. So thank you. And that is going to be tentative council action on March 24th. Item number 4 is a resolution for the Northwest Pipeline Building and a new construction public benefit analysis. Joining us at the table, Allison Rowland, Council Policy Analyst. Logan Hunt, Real Estate Director, will join us. Tammy Hansecker, Director of CAN. Mike Ackerlot, Deputy Director of Community Services. And available for questions, there's the development team here in the room. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll run over the sort of general outline of this proposal and then leave it to the experts to fill in the gaps or repeat the major points as well. The Department of Community Services and can't even get that one right. The Department of Community and Neighborhoods, or CAN, has conducted an informal public benefits analysis for a housing rehabilitation and construction project known as The Grove, which is located at approximately 321 East and 2nd South. This includes the Northwest Pipeline Building, which is also known as the Old Public Safety Building. The PBA identifies the specific benefits that the city would receive in return for discounting the 2.42 acre property to a below market sales price of $1 million. The benefits include meeting city goals related to increasing affordable housing, eliminating a development impediment, preserving historic structures and property, and a number of other benefits. The rehabilitation and construction project would include adaptive reuse of the historic Northwest Pipeline Building, along with a new residential construction. The development team includes the Housing Assistance Management Enterprise, or HAME, which is affiliated with the Housing Authority of Salt Lake City, a developer named Xylem Projects, and the Common Ground Institute. The proposed development would provide 196 affordable units, at least 15,000 square feet of ground floor and basement level commercial space, a parking structure, public plaza, and public art. And at least 51% of the units would have 2 or more bedrooms, and up to 16 households could participate in a voluntary wealth building program run by the Housing Authority. Before closing on the sale, the developer would be required to demonstrate evidence of construction and permanent financing, and that the Northwest Pipeline building would be rehabilitated to guidelines that are consistent with the National Park Service / Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. It would be paid to the city. This $1 million would be repaid to the city in installments, structured similarly to a low-interest, very long-term payment plan at a fixed interest rate. That's my easy way of explaining the loan, but I will turn it over to Ken.
Thank you. I am just going to provide some table setting and then turn it over to Logan to go through the public benefit analysis and proposed terms. So as I know many of you are aware, affordable housing projects are less viable today than they were even 5 years ago. We're faced with increasing construction costs that are increasing faster than rents. The rental market has flattened out a bit. Vacancy rates have increased. Low-income housing tax credit pricing has decreased, which provides less equity to a project. Tax credit investors are more selective. Utilities have gone up, maintenance costs have gone up, but the rents are flat. So there's a lot of financing challenges with affordable housing projects. And then to layer on top of that with this specific project, because of changing demographics of the neighborhood, the project was once eligible for a 30% increase in low-income housing tax credit equity, but currently fell out of that eligibility this year because of census data. So it received a big hit in project financing. And then also just the costliness of adaptively reusing the Northwest Pipeline building provides a lot of cost and uncertainty to the project. So there are significant financing challenges. So what we did in CAN, we worked with the development team to really work out a win-win structure for both the developer and the city. So what is before you is below market financing terms. Of note, we did look at a ground lease structure at one point in time, but that actually didn't work with low-income housing, the way low-income housing tax credit site eligibility requirements are right now. So it would be conveying the land through a land sale and the Northwest Pipeline building. But the win-win structure is we would enter into a below-market purchase and sell agreement now that would provide site control to the development team. They really need site control to go out and be able to apply for gap financing and financial sources. They're not eligible for a lot of these applications until they have that site control, but we've built in really specific conditions to closing, so they will essentially be qualified for a building permit, have all of their financing in place, the design will go through a design review process. We will enter into a development agreement and a restrictive use agreement, so the city will be very protected by the time the property is actually conveyed to the development team. So we feel like it's a win-win structure here, so I will turn it over to Logan to go through the specific terms.
Thanks. We can move on to the next slide. For all the reasons that Tammy mentioned, the administration is requesting the approval of the proposed term sheet and below market sale of the Northwest Pipeline property for the historic preservation of the Northwest Pipeline, affordable housing, family-sized housing, and community-serving commercial space. Next slide, please. By way of background, the site is approximately 2.5 acres on 3rd East and 2nd South. The Northwest Pipeline was built in 1958 and is one of the few examples, I think one of 3 in the state of Utah that is in the international style, and as such is on the National Historic Register of Places. It served as the public safety building from 1979 to 2013. Next slide, please. In the RFP, we had requirements and preferences for development team proposals. The requirements included the historic preservation of the building, Energy Star 90 or equivalent for the new construction, prioritizing leasing of to locally owned businesses and neighborhood service providers, and that's something that from conversations with the community, and minimizing surface parking and visible parking to support multimodal access. This is the city's and the state's highest frequency transit network along 200 South. Next slide, please. There are a number of preferences which housing with the Grove team ultimately ended up meeting, one of which was housing choice, including family-sized units, workforce housing, wealth-building opportunities, or home ownership, year-round public amenities, which could include gathering space or seating, and art visible to 200 South by a Salt Lake City-based artist, and all-electric buildings with no on-site carbon combustion. Next slide, please. Ultimately, there were 11 submissions to the first stage of the RFP, and the selection committee comprised of 13 members of both city staff and elected officials, as well as community members, and the Grove proposal was selected and announced in June of 2024. Next slide, please. The Grove proposal includes 196 units at 80% AMI or below, with an average of 60% AMI. 51% of the will be 2-bedroom or more, and there's approximately 15,000 square feet of community serving commercial. They've incorporated a public plaza with outdoor art elements. The new construction will meet that Energy Star 90 or equivalent, and the new construction includes a shared parking structure for the entire development with approximately 100 stalls. Next slide, please. As I shared before, all units are 80% AMI or below with an average of 60%. And affordability will be restricted to 50 years. Due to the nature of the LIHTC application, we don't have an exact unit breakdown, but the development team has agreed to provide the minimum shown on the right for 38% AMI, 40% AMI, and 50% AMI. Housing Authority also has a program called the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, which allows certain households to voluntarily enter into an escrow account, which increases as their income increases. Additionally, they will be providing financial coaching, workforce navigation, credit building tools, and home ownership resources for all residents. Next slide, please. So with that 51% of a bedroom of 2 or more bedrooms, that works out to 80 units at 2 bedrooms and 29 units at 3 bedrooms. Next slide. In order to close, the development team will need to complete a design review by city staff for RFP compliance. They'll need to obtain a building permit will issue letter, proof of secured finance, and will need to agree on terms and enter into a development agreement, right to repurchase agreement, restrictive use agreement, and public access easement for the public space. Closing must occur before June 2027, with construction commencing before December 2028 and complete before December 2031. The appraised value of this property is approximately $18 million. The developer is proposing a purchase price of $1 million. For the first 15 years, the developer will pay, during the LIHTC compliance period, $1 per year. Following that, they'll pay 50% of surplus cash flow on the property until that $1 million is paid. Any remaining balance at the end of 55 years will be payable with 3% simple interest. Next slide. The developer is pursuing historic tax credits, low-income housing tax credits, Olin Walker Housing Loan Fund, and CRA NOFA funds. In 2024, CRA awarded $1 million in HDLP and $1.25 million in wealth building for the wealth building program. The current total projected project costs are approximately $92 million, which does not include the land. Next slide, please. As you're aware, state and city code allowed for the below market sale if it's deemed appropriate and necessary to advance the city's affordable housing, historic preservation, economic development, job creation, and neighborhood improvement. Next slide. As such, this project includes 196 affordable homes with a 50-year affordability restriction, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, community serving commercial space, and activation of a long vacant site, preservation of the Northwest Pipeline. And the city will enforce these through the restricted use agreement, development agreement, and conveyance will not occur until financing permits and other approvals are secured, with termination rights if closing conditions are not met. Next slide. And with that, I believe we have 5 minutes for the Housing Authority, Xylem, and Common Ground to speak to the project.
Okay.
Thanks.
Council members, do we have any questions for staff?
Yeah, I had some questions related to some of the security measures that were in place. I know that maybe they want to speak to that, but just wanted to see some updates. I know that that was part of our agreement. I didn't hear about that talked about in the development agreement, but it's my understanding we're still waiting for some of the fencing and activation in the interim.
So Councilmember, okay, so that's a question for the applicant. Other questions for staff? So we can, okay, applicant, okay, now we can switch, thank you. So Dan Ackerman, Executive Director, Housing Authority of Salt Lake City, Ben McAdams, Common Ground Institute, and Inena Lynch, Silent Projects.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Dan Ackerman, also the president of HAME, which is conducting this project. And as you mentioned, Nena Lynch, Xylem Partners, and Ben McAdam, Common Ground, are part of the ownership and the development team as well. Pretty good architects, MSR Architect, KTGY Architects, Big D Construction on board, Traceries Historic Consultants. A little further background, between HAME and the Housing Authority, we have developed and own 35 properties in the city limits of Salt Lake City. We're very excited, of course, about this project we've been working on weekly, daily, and monthly. Historic renovation and new construction, basically a beautiful historic building repurposed from an office building to residential, which is already a challenge. And then, of course, hazmat removal and proper historic renovation. The project has been blighted in many ways since 2013, and we know the leaders, you and the neighbors and others, are not happy about that. In 2015, the city issued an RFP and chose a developer for the property, and that development failed due to unusual elements of the project, such as the historic nature and expense of that building, the market swings, basically making it unattainable. We have solved that attainability problem, as I'll describe in a minute. You chose our team over many others as a local leader with unusual tools. We have project-based vouchers. We think we have trust, two-way trust, as evidenced by the $3.164 million we've spent of our own money on the project so far. The kind of the public nonprofit nature, and unlike many large for-profit developers, you know, a real mission and practice towards that. We've completed many elements of the project. I won't go through all those, but we have actually submitted for building permits on both of the elements of this project, basically one large new construction building and the historic renovation of the Northwest Pipeline building.
Just to interrupt you, we have 5 minutes.
I understand.
I want to make sure that you know
I'm
we're
good.
halfway through the time.
I practiced for a couple days. You challenged us on behalf of the community and really on behalf of city history, which this building was and will be in the future. We believe those challenges are met, making it fiscally attainable. We still have a financial gap of 2 to 4%, which is more than a couple $100,000, but if the family orientation, some of the key pieces, neighborhood services, dog park, daycare. We're committed to daycare in a financial sense as well. Some affordability advancements that weren't anticipated, and also we are aggressively marketing this property, or will be with your approval, towards public safety and health-related and emergency response workers. We need this. The next things we need are site purchase and control, as was mentioned. Obviously, continued neighborhood input. We've received lots of neighborhood input over the last year and a half. New contractor, a final general contractor for the new construction, launching the actual leasing, which will make it much easier when we have full control, and then building permits, our development deal with the city, et cetera. So we did achieve high sustainability. We achieved a very unique homeownership strategy. It was mentioned some of the tax credit pricing and challenges we've received since. But in summary, we think the ambitious requirements that you set for us have been met. The previously challenged project to complete for many, many years, including by others, is now attainable. We think there'll be an exciting and thriving community where basically a hole in the neighborhood existed, and we're much closer to the timelines than was previously mentioned. We can close very soon, and ostensibly have kind of 3 pieces of ribbon cutting in the next year. I'm sorry, of groundbreaking. That was a little too ambitious. We're anticipating some of the questions regarding the site activity package, which was prepared separately by an architect, and also some public safety elements that we've weaved throughout this project. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you made it before the time. Very impressive. So I had my concerns, but
my staff has their concerns too.
By the way,
I
can I
love
just
my job
mention
too
that
much.
there were slides that we didn't.
Well, it's too late for that.
Yeah, no, but for your review
yes,
later. Yes.
If you send those to staff, yes, and I saw so perfect. If those are the slides, then they are part of the presentation. I would like to open up the questions from council members. There was a question from Lopez Chavez about public safety. Maybe you want to address that one?
Yes, we started by incorporating, we listened to the neighborhood, and you can imagine what we heard and what we know from being community members. We started by integrating CEPTED elements into the design of the construction, crime prevention through environmental design, including state-of-the-art entry systems, lighting, paying a lot of attention to pedestrian paths, fencing in key areas, sight lines, etc. By the way, we have a professional consultant on board that does that for us at other properties as well. We've also worked with the road home carefully to plan at the opening a minimum of 6 to 12 months of additional security, which is very expensive. Not that it's not worth it, but that would allow sort of a change in the neighborhood. And we would ask at that time that we get a little assistance from the PD just to sort of transform that hole in the donut. We've also worked with Mary and Willie very closely, the owner of the Utah Nonprofit Neighborhood, owner of several other sites around us. He'll be here at the next meeting to help support this project. Is there anything else, Nana, that you wanted to mention?
Well, just the efforts on site activation. Do you want to?
Site activation is separate. I forgot to introduce the staff here. I didn't want to hurt the 5 minutes. Brittany Dabb just left, Deputy Director. She's been handling the site activation package. That package includes 4 or 5 phases of immediate site improvements once we have control of the site, again, at our own cost so far. And it starts with a kind of a cleanup and an aesthetic change to the site, remove the chain link fences and kind of use the facade of the site as something more pleasurable to look at. There's also, we may have a temporary dog park that we start to encourage there, some electric, site electric improvements. And so it comes in 4 or 5 stages. Babcock Associates, a separate architect from the others, has prepared just kind of a bid package for that. We're also a property manager regarding the site once it's open. We know we've worked in tougher neighborhoods. I have for certain, and we are prepared to, really that's what happens. Sites that have high crime and are blighted have poor management, and we pride ourselves in being able to, evict when evictions are necessary, even though we have a very welcoming package at the front end.
I appreciate, and the housing authority has a track record of maintaining their properties, and and the ones that are in my district are examples of how it should be done. So I appreciate that. Councilmember Dugan, you had a question.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So this is kind of for both the admin and the developer, and Ham's, Dan is on the commercial end of it. With commercial properties, we see a lot of vacancies downtown. We see a lot of vacancies across the city in the valley, and there's a softening of the commercial space and due to a host of probably reasons. And this property, because of its location, tell me how you're going to make sure that these spaces down below, the community base, which is great. I love the idea that, daycares, a little healthcare, whatever, others, maybe a little space to buy something to eat. How are we going to make sure that those are not vacant and that they are also activated, and that the local businesses aren't being priced out and then left open? And I'm looking at both the admin and, because that has to be somehow, we have to price it right.
I'll start with our commitments and the RFP response.
You a minute and a half.
Okay.
For that answer. Okay.
The commitments we've made are to local businesses, and we have a lot of interest from local businesses. We need a few more steps to really get to the stage of showing them where and what the lease will be. We understand too, nationwide, the issue of ground level commercial and retail being a big part of urban planning for years. And we really are in this for the long haul, and we understand there's dips and rises in downtown street front commercial, and we've planned that into our financing. I don't know if you want to add anything, Ben.
No, I think that covers it. As the project, it is very much a focus of ours, something that we
So
care
they would probably be below more market rate, because market rate, the local businesses aren't going to be able to handle the market rate, and probably even the clientele's not going to handle the market rate either.
It's definitely not a cash cow of the development, but it's an important part of the placemaking and site development, and we need to get further along before we can start putting pen to paper about the actual lease terms.
And is there an incentive from the city to do anything, or how's the city making sure that we're abiding by that vision? A lot of times we have great vision, but we don't have good execution because the vision was too great, and then vision was reality, or the execution was reality.
Well, I'll just say it's part of the term sheet, that it was part of the RFP originally, that to really focus on neighborhood uses. We've made that commitment. We had, actually, our RFP response included a number of letters of support from the types of organizations that we hope to work with, from daycare to healthy, fresh food. So we have already sort of developed those relationships, and it will be a part of the term sheet. But in the interest, there's also so, there's a period of time after which, let's say we do a ton of marketing and we, try and bring tenants in and for whatever reason are unsuccessful, then we work with the city to look at other potential uses. But I'll just add that, this one thing about this team, and I think just looking at, we have a quasi-governmental entity here. We have two people who worked in public service. We are aligned. We are mission aligned. So the commercial space, we're not looking at the commercial space to make a lot of money. So when you ask about, below market rate, that is absolutely something we do need to cover costs. We need to be fiscally responsible, but we have a commitment to really getting the right uses and for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Don't add another question. You added a few. Councilmember, yeah, Petro.
But it was really convenient because I was going to ask about if the commercial space was going to be market rate. So thank you for getting there. So then the second part of my question becomes, has anyone done any projection for the year 16 to 55 if anticipated proceeds will, it's a 40-year mortgage, that seems reasonable. I just get real nervous when I pass my kids' generation.
We hesitate to tell you this, but our projections, if this deal goes as planned, shows about $600,000 or $800,000 in cash flow per year in year 15. We can't commit to that because the market changes dramatically. The early years, by the way, there's almost no cash flow in some of these LIHTC projects. We're also deferring our developer fee and putting it into the upfront costs, about 50% of the developer fee. But to be honest, our internal projections show about $600,000 to $800,000 a year. And the brains behind that, is Grant Wise here. Dan Judd, another part of our development team. Sia Siabi, the head of the development team on the far left.
So the after 55 is just a backstop in case.
Yes, absolutely.
He values our currency internationally.
Absolutely. There's been internal talk that it'll be paid off within 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
I wasn't supposed to say that. But it's
Thank
true.
you so much. No, I was just going to say, I think this is a very complicated project, and I'm really excited for it. I recognize how difficult it is. So I'm in favor of the site control to get those applications forward. I'd love to understand if you guys do need help with the soft costs of activation, just in the immediacy. I don't know if there's tools we have available, but just so staff knows, I do think even as we move some of the supply and labor there, once you are ready to break ground, that there is just a lot of symptoms in that neighborhood. So I just want to be cautious. I don't know if you've calculated security in there, but we had some break-ins recently. And so just something to consider in terms of what's happening at scale. Other than that, I'm really, really happy with this project. I think this is exactly what we need. The only other comment I was going to make to you all is, as we look at retail, it's just building to suite. And I've seen a lot of success with smaller builds in this neighborhood. And we're seeing a lot more tourism, hotel activation. It's just really changing. And so I think thinking about how do we interact, I know you mentioned the dog park. Just wanted to make sure that you feel completely supported as you begin to activate this area. It's been a difficult one. And so I just I'm like super excited. I'm like, please, can't wait. I'll go out there with Ben. We'll go dig a shovel in there. So thank you.
Just want to say I'm grateful for this proposal and for the opportunity to activate a space and move forward the next life of this space. A couple of concerns that my fellow council members will hear me raise again and again is how are we building mixed income communities? How are we creating neighborhoods where people of different economic backgrounds are living near each other and bumping up against each other? Because that's what really leads to long-term social mobility. And so I saw the family self-sufficiency plan included in this, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, the direction of moving in that direction versus for sale units in the building.
Yeah, we, on for sale, we studied it and studied it and studied it, and we could not find a straight for sale program. Our original approach might have been a lease to own after 5 years. On other properties, interestingly, since that time, we formed a community land trust. We're aggressively seeking funding from the state for first-time homebuyer condominiums. So just as a community member, know that we are hearing people loud and clear, and we think we're going to be one of the first, even though condos have a whole, we could talk for an hour about that. On the affordability levels, we looked at some of the price points that these rents will be in. It obviously depends on the family size and the unit size and the source of funding. So it is confusing to many people when people talk about what the rents will be. But in our affirmative marketing to public safety workers, we saw that salaries of registered nurses, dental hygienists, pharmacy technicians, school administrators, police, fire, journeymen, et cetera, along with some behavioral health specialists. We used the city's salaries for this study. Construction code enforcement supervisor, community services auditor, and really basically the categories of safety, security, emergency response, specific health professions, and also specific technology professions, all under the guise that if we can have people live closer and have it be affordable, it's going to really help the neighborhood and the community in more intrinsic ways.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to wrap it up by saying that this is probably one of the most ideal projects I've seen in a long time, because it rescues a building that has been a problem for a long time for the city. And not only the building itself, but what it created in that part of town. And I also I love that you are achieving some of our goals as well, you know, to bring family housing and to bring activation and to bring community members, smaller businesses, and to, you know, you even meeting the landscape requirements and you know, water-wise requirements with, you know, the plants that you're going to bring in. So you are checking all the boxes. And I am excited to see this part of town you know, change because of this project. So thank you for the project. This is a game changer for the city. So that's not a question. So you know,
Thank you.
I get the last word.
I wish I could fill in 5 more minutes, but
I wanted to add real quickly, thank you for giving us the opportunity to work on this project. It is a fascinating and fun project, and I'm so excited that we get to preserve this building and move it forward. So Jennifer will remember, but I was a city employee 15 years ago, 17 years ago, making the case to why we needed to get the police and fire, public safety out of this building, and the building was in such bad shape that we needed to build a new building. So it really feels coming full circle to now be able to go in and restore it and preserve it.
Now you want to put police officers there.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
live.
just one more. I did miss a piece with Sia's introduction. You have, as leaders, have helped create an environment where we're going to have 8 groundbreakings this year. Before December, 8 groundbreakings of various types of affordable housing. So it's all blossoming at once, but you as leaders caused that to happen. And I've worked around many other cities in my career, and that's just unheard of to have, especially in times like this.
I have my own shovel, so let us know when those happen. Thank you so much for being here. Moving on right now to the break. So we have a little break right now. We're going to reconvene at 3:45. We're going back to the work session. We were in item number 5, which was the break. Now we're going back to item number 6, which is a resolution for the second issuance of the general obligation bond, parks, trails, and open space improvements. Alison Rowland, our council policy analyst, is going to give us a brief explanation of the item, and available for questions. Mary Beth Thompson, Chief Financial Officer, and Marina Scott, City Treasurer, are here for and park staff as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The administration has proposed to issue the second tranche of the $85 million Parks, Trails, and Open Space GEO bond, which was approved by voters in 2022. This issuance would be for $51 million, which the Department of Public Lands has indicated would fund nearly all the planned projects remaining. Approximately $9.2 million would be left for the third and final tranche, 11% of the total $85 million approved. The council indicated its support for issuing the second tranche in a straw poll last November based on descriptions of projects and activities to be funded with these bond proceeds. The funds would be available to spend immediately following the bond sale, which is planned, at least at last notice, for April 7th. So I will let the experts go ahead.
Good afternoon. I am Marina Scott, City Treasurer. Thank you for your time. Today, Mary Beth and I are presenting a proposal for the second issuance of general obligation bond from the authorization that happened in 2022. And this is the second issuance from that authorization. We will walk you through the financial structure of this transaction, as well as the project scope and the timeline. Next slide, please. General obligation bonds are secured by the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city. In November 2022, Salt Lake City voters approved an $85 million bond for parks, trails, and open space. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, this is the second issuance. The first was in 2023. Next slide, please. So this table was prepared by Public Lands, and it details the projects selected for the second issuance. It's a little bit small to see on a slide, but just the exact same table was included in our transmittal. Next slide, please. Each bond issuance requires formal City Council approval, and the administration is asking the City Council to consider the bond resolution on Tuesday, February 17th. If the resolution is approved, Finance will move forward engaging rating agencies, and we're hoping to meet with rating agencies the week of March 9th, receive ratings, and post the preliminary official statement to the market by the end of March. The bond sale is currently scheduled on April 7th and bond closing on April 28th. Next slide, please. So to summarize,
I know there's some new individuals here and some people that haven't gone through a GO bond. Do you have any questions pertaining to the time frame and what those steps are as we move forward?
You are being singled out.
I don't believe I have any questions at this point in time, but I appreciate the due diligence in the process and am eager for the bond sale to go out so we can start to move towards construction.
Great.
Councilmember Petro.
With a projected sale at the end of April, when would this hit property taxes for our constituents?
It will be in November.
It'll hit them on their November. Do we have a projection of how much per household this issuance will cost our constituents?
We don't have it at this time, but we will. After the sale, then we'll be able to give you that information.
Because that's contingent upon the actual interest rate that we're able to secure?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe that's a clarification just for everyone, that
when the public approves a bond, so GO bond went to the public, went to the voters, it doesn't actually go on their property tax bills until each part of it is issued. And once we start to pay debt service, once the city starts to pay that debt service, that's what enables us to enter that information in the state tax commission system, which is why it's so to the dollar figure, like what is our actual debt service payment, not just the voter information pamphlet that they used when they voted on the bond.
And maybe you're going to get this, but this is the first one was 29 million, this is 51 million. And is that just because of the construction? And when we first, back in 22, did we think there was going to be 3 tranches where the second one was going to be the big one? Or was there discussion on splitting the second one into the 2 25s and separating that?
I'm going to ask Tom to come up, but I suspect what it is that the first one was preliminary for design, and this is where we're starting to get into true, real construction. That's the reason it's going to be the largest of the 3.
Yeah, I kind of think, go ahead.
You want to keep going?
That's how I'm thinking it is. Also, that's why I'm wondering if you could split this up into 2. But it sounds like maybe it's unreasonable to do that because of the amount of construction and how the timelines of the bonds go too.
The other thing, remember that every time you split bonds and you do more tranches, it costs us more money, right? Cost of issuance becomes more expensive. Cost for bond counsel becomes more expensive, right? So that becomes more expensive. So if we did 10 issuance, it would be very, very costly for the residents of Salt Lake City.
And I might just add, the amount is the amount that we need. 95% of that 49 million is for construction. And so if we were to split it into multiple tranches, it would just delay half of the projects. And then of that 49 million, I believe it's 23.5 million is just for Glendale Phase 2. So if we split it, it would delay every project that isn't Glendale.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Councilmember Carlson?
So I do have some questions now. So given that this may hit their property tax payments, hit beginning November, how do we convey and how do we make it clear to taxpayers that this was a bond that was voted on previously? Because I think they might get confused with other property, the county and this, and so how do we make it clear that they approved this bond?
Yeah, we struggle with that every year let's see, I'm trying to think. It seems like most years we have some new GO bond, either issuing part of it or, and so we try and remind people like this bond was approved in this year. What's nice is that it is a separate line item on the property taxes. And so it is not technically a tax increase. And so it doesn't trigger truth in taxation, but obviously we want to communicate to people who will be seeing that. So really at this point, it's just our overall budget communications is where we'll include stuff like that. And frequently we'll look around at if the county is issuing bonds that are going on the tax rolls too. If the school district is issuing bonds, they just had a recent voter approved bond. So there's a lot to look out for. And at this point, it's more about communication than anything else.
Make a quick follow-up to that. And the construction stage, which this tranche seems like it's paying for a lot of the construction for these smaller parks, but also for the second phase for Glendale. Is the administration doing any community engagement to some of these parks? And if so, maybe this is a perfect place to make sure that it's included in all the mailings and all of the pieces that this was voter approved on this year, and just a little explanation beyond the public feedback that we need. I think that will be very useful.
Yeah, we would love to do that. I think that's a great idea. As an update from last time, I believe it was also included in the transmittal, but just to restate it, Public Lands has increased the amount of communication that we're doing around our GO bond projects. We have right now a monthly newsletter that goes out to each community council, and it's tailored to the specific areas. People can sign up for all of them if they want to receive all the updates. But even as we move past design and into construction, I think the misconception sometimes is that community engagement is for only when we're like making decisions on which direction the project is going to go. But we definitely believe that consistent communication, even through construction, is just as important a piece of that community engagement. So we'll continue to do that on a project-by-project basis, and then overall, from public lands perspective, for all bond projects.
Thank you. It seems like we might have done all the questions. Is there more presentation? Okay, go ahead.
Just one slide, the very last one,
Maybe we can put
to summarize the
one
presentation.
slide up. 1 second.
Okay, so to summarize the presentation, the administration is asking for authorization to issue up to 51 million of general obligation bonds. The resolution sets a not to exceed interest rate at 6.5. It's just a parameter because we're still 2 months out before pricing. So we just would like to set up a ceiling and give us a little bit of flexibility. And the bond will be issued for 20 years.
And the team kind of zoomed by it, but the meetings that Mary Beth and her team have with the rating agencies are incredibly important, and that's where they present essentially the financial picture of the city, and they've gone very well in recent years, and so our city has benefited from very sound financial management and good meetings, so great job and good luck.
Thank you so much for being here. We're moving on to item number 7 now on the agenda, and that's an ordinance for budget amendment number 4 that we've been discussing for the last several weeks for fiscal year 2025-2026, and of course a follow-up. There's a few items on the agenda, and Kate Warrett, Council Policy Analyst, Mary Beth Thompson, Chief Financial Officer, still at the table, and maybe Gregory Clary, Budget Director, may join us. It's your
Great.
time.
Thank you. So one of the items that was previously discussed, A6, we have received additional information from the administration asking for a straw poll on this item. We have one other new item that has not been addressed, and then there are a few housekeeping as well as grants requiring no new staff resources. Those are.
Let's go in that order that you just mentioned it. Follow that order that you just told us. Can you follow that order like that?
Follow that? Oh, yeah,
Yes,
we can
just
fully
follow
follow
that,
that.
yes.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and have Allison come up to the table.
Hello again. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the item that the administration requested be straw polled by the council is A6, the pedestrian bridge over the Surplus Canal at Glendale Golf Course. CAN has learned that an update to the current Army Corps of Engineers regulations will go into effect on March 15th. It will be cheaper, all of the construction will be cheaper and more efficient if the construction contract is executed before that date. So this requires initiating the construction procurement by the end of next week. And so the question is whether you're willing to do a straw poll.
So anybody is willing to offer that straw poll so we can have that bridge?
Mr. Chair, I propose a straw poll to approve item number A6, the pedestrian bridge over the Surplus Canal for $250,000.
Now there's a straw poll. Show your feelings. Okay.
Thank you.
Next up is item A20. This is funding for Fisher Mansion. It's one-time amount of $500,000. They're looking at using unallocated bond interest to fund part of the Fisher Mansion rehabilitation. This could include skylight work, plaster cracks, soffits, fascia boards, restoring sandstone, porch elements, flooring, doors, and windows. This will not cover the full amount that is required, and they will likely be coming back for additional funding requests in the future.
Does the administration know how much money this building needs? I know that there is a question pending on the table, which is like the the future use or the final use of the building, which will direct, costs. But is there an end in sight? When at what point we stop fixing the building and we wait for that feedback? Maybe a timeline as well. Thank you for joining us.
This is the remaining interest income money, and I had talked to some of you about historical exhibits in the building, and what I heard from council is there wasn't really an interest in doing that. We want to get this money spent so that we don't lose the money. And so we asked the administration, some of our departments, to give us projects that were ready, that could just go. And Fisher Mansion is a good project on the west side that we can plug and play, so to speak, that whatever amount of money we have, we can just keep making progress there. So in answer to your question, is there an end goal? I think we just want to get the building in as good a shape as we can to then go out and do an RFP to a developer.
And as good a shape as we can, is it $5 million more? Is it $1 million more? Is it $20 million? Like, do we have any? Does your site have an idea of what that looks like?
I can get you that number. I would hate to throw something out and have Tammy and Jorge correct me. So let me get that to you.
Yeah. Certainly, it's a building that I care a lot about, and but I just want to know how far are we along. So thank you, Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I've talked to each of you about this, but as a council added edit to this, I would like to propose that we put aside $100,000 for so that we can start displaying some artifacts about the city's history and possibly have some, I don't know how you would explain it, but some exhibits that would provide context to those artifacts. Several of us have gotten to tour the space that's going to be the Museum of Utah that will open later this year. They have a lot of items that are in storage that they're not going to be able to put out, and they're hoping to put those into different museums and places across Utah. A lot of those are Salt Lake City related, and I think it would be great to have those on display to tell the story of Salt Lake City. I think it's really important right now for us as part of the city's identity and to show our history and our values and what it means to be Salt Lake City. And if we still give $400,000 to Fisher Mansion, I think that'll still really help, but keep $100,000 so that we can have some more secure space to show some artifacts and to have that on display for people to visit when they come to the building. And I also think this is important, particularly important because of the Olympics and just other things where we're going to be welcoming the world, reopening the temple, all of that coming to Salt Lake City. So I'd like to set aside some money for that and then would propose a straw poll.
Chris, will you be open to shaping many of the artifacts that are in our side of the building relate to sister cities and the connections that we had with other dignitaries coming from all over the world visiting us and leaving a mark in our history too. Will your exhibit also try to include some of those artifacts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's whatever we think best, kind of tells the story of Salt Lake City and the different groups that have helped shape this city, including our sister cities. I think that would tie nicely into this. So yeah, I'm open to that too.
I just want to clarify that there's need for a straw poll on this particular item.
Well,
I just wanted
there if you want it.
I just wanted to share what we would intend to do with that $100,000 is maybe hire a history fellow on contract or part-time to lead us in a process to identify the stories that we could be telling, what artifacts we have that we could be sharing, help us design and write the text for those exhibits. But also in visiting with the Arts Council, we know that we will be loaning the Brigham Young portrait in the council chambers during the 2027 year. And our hope is the same person could help us create an exhibit that explores newer artists, more diverse art, diverse portraits that could go in the chambers. And so the hope is this person could help us curate both history exhibits and an exhibit in the chambers.
I mean, you know, putting a smile on my face because that, you know, I've been trying to do that one for a little while, so that's exciting for me. I also would like to add to where you are thinking. Years ago, on the basement floor of this building, there was an exhibit that highlighted immigrant faces of Salt Lake City, and somehow it disappeared. And it's not there, and the walls are blank again. I would love to see if that could be brought up again, if we still own it. I thought that was a great exhibit, and I wonder if I could be part of the rotation of things, maybe potentially if the administration feel like it's a good exhibit to have. So, any other thoughts? If not, I mean, you're calling for a straw poll, Chris, right?
Yeah, but well, I guess not, because we don't need it, but.
You're welcome to straw poll, but none of the other items need to be straw polled, just the first.
So.
Well, I'll ask anyway. Council members are supportive of that? Thank you. Oh, that's it.
Okay, so it goes unanimous with the council members present.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I wanted to bring our attention back to A18. We had a pretty, engaged conversation about parking wayfinding signage a couple weeks ago, and just wanted to signal that as I was driving downtown and on a Saturday night looking for parking, I realized I could benefit from more public parking signs. And so, especially as a driver, feeling like this is something that I think could really benefit our city in getting ready for major events that we have coming, the temple reopening, the Olympics. And so wanted to just signal my support for this particular item.
Welcome to the old folks contingency. We're excited to have you, council member.
And to follow up, as I thinking a lot about parking, would love to think longer term about how we might integrate more smart or intelligent parking, if there's an opportunity to think about, spaces available, et cetera. I think that is a great way for us to both push the electronic aspect of this, but also realize that even folks who are tech savvy like myself still rely on some good old-fashioned signs to find a place to park.
Like Councilmember Seven obviously loves the signage. I agree with this, and I actually will take it a step forward. So I will support the administration, and it's also a commitment to the state and a commitment to our business community that we're going to highlight the amount of parkings, that we have plenty of parking in our city, and highlight the commitment to them to improve the signage and the wayfinding for those. But to your idea and the photo that we saw from other cities where they have more digital tools and better coordination, that is not going to be an easy thing to solve, but I would like to have a legislative intent drafted that directs a forward-looking approach to parking downtown, where there is a better coordination in the private side of parking, if we can unlock that side, and the public parking options we have, and wayfinding that accomplishes that, where we can actually find out where really are live parking spots. So that will be my taking that idea and moving it to the next level. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Going through items?
Yes, there's one more. I think that was it. Oh.
The next item is D2. That is an Allison item.
Yes, thank you, Kate, for the reminder. This is engineering, planning, and design, housekeeping, and expansion. An ongoing amount of $350,000 is being requested. This is really just cleaning up an error in last year's budget, in the actual budget document. Basically, they want to correct a reference that was mistakenly included in the FY26 budget to transfer $350,000 to CIP funds. The correct reference would be to transfer this amount to, quote, an operational expense in the non-departmental cost center, end quote, which would allow any unspent funds to drop to fund balance at fiscal year end. So the money got categorized in an incorrect department or in an incorrect way, and they're correcting the categorization, but the other parts of the item were previously approved.
Interesting. So you found some cushion, some money in one budget. Okay, awesome. Seems like a housekeeping thing. Any questions? Okay. Is there another item?
We have a few more that we can go through. Austin's coming up.
Oh, they're all. Let's do it. Thank you.
Yeah, item D3 is another housekeeping item. This is related to budget amendment number 2. In that amendment, the council approved carry forward funding for outstanding obligations for the Department of Sustainability, mainly for waste and recycling vehicles. However, the revenue to offset the vehicle expenses was not included in that amendment. So this also cleans up an error. The item provides the revenue necessary to enter into the lease agreements for those vehicles. And happy to help answer any questions.
Okay. The boring one, so keep going.
Item D4, this is a rescoping of Open Streets funding. This funding is housed in the non-departmental budget, and $400,000 was approved in FY26 as ongoing funding. The administration is requesting that the full portion of this money be rescoped for other community events, including the Downtown Alliance Blocks program, an upcoming watch party, and America 250 events, which celebrates the 250th anniversary of America. The administration is also fundraising to support these events.
Council members? I have some questions. So this is moving some economic development funds to specific events. In the past, Open Streets, if I remember right, it was an item that was included in the administration's budgets since I've been on the council and before. So is this fully killing the idea of Open Streets in the future? Because you're sort of emptying the Open Streets program completely.
I think maybe it would be best to have the mayor's office respond to that one. I don't want to put her on the spot. Jill, I don't know if we could get your, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So Alejandro was asking if the intent is to not fund the Open Streets program anymore because of this rescope. And just to clarify, Open Streets started in 2020 as a response to the pandemic to try and get people downtown, but the city has funded it different ways kind of each year, trying to figure out what the best way to put it on is, and it's become quite expensive. So I don't know, Jill probably has more information that she could share.
I think this would be a one-year departure because of the large special events that we had, and also because of the length of time it takes to sort of plan those 4 weekends. We felt like this would be the best use of the funding for this year, but definitely the next couple of years, because of the Temple Open House, we would want active, at least maybe not Open Streets as we've known it in the past, which is 4 set weekends, but rather activation downtown in slow periods is how we would want to approach it.
Okay, I mean, that is something that I would love a deeper discussion about. Certainly activation is something that we all trying to achieve, and the Open Streets program was aimed towards bringing people to downtown and, creating that synergy with all the businesses. And I am not sure that some of these events do that, and I learn about some of those events through social media myself. I would love to understand what the administration's vision on how is this helping our business community, for example. If that is not the goal, what is the other measures of success of what we're trying to do here? I would love a conversation about this one at some point. Hopefully, we can schedule that.
Sorry, before we move on from this topic, there's, Mr. Chair, we've been working with the Downtown Alliance on a briefing to talk about what they're doing with the business community in conjunction with the Temple Square Open House. And I think that a lot of what they're talking about doing in conjunction with that would be relevant to, future activation as well. So maybe we can make sure to incorporate that as part of their briefing.
I love that. Thank you.
Great. Unless there's questions about the other housekeeping items, they're more generic and not as controversial. We can go ahead and close.
I think we have finished budget amendment number 4, which is incredible. It was a big one too. So good job, everyone. Thank you for surviving that. And obviously, we're going to have, council action on tentative council action on February 17. So
the public hearing tonight.
And the public hearing tonight for the public to participate on that. Thank you. We're moving on to item number 8, advice and consent of Salt Lake City Chief Information Officer Zach Posner. Zach, will you join us to the table here and make sure that the light of the microphone is on green? And it is your time.
Thank you so much. I don't have anything.
Is it green?
Thank you so much. I don't have anything prepared. If you have questions for me, that's great. Otherwise, I'd love to say I've had the opportunity to meet with the mayor's office. I've had the opportunity to meet with a number of folks in IT. It's a phenomenal team. I'm really excited to join and engage with those folks, with constituents, with all of you.
And you worked for the city for how long?
I worked for Salt Lake County until the end of last week. I was the chief information officer there, and I've never had the opportunity to work for the city before.
Okay, you're gonna enjoy this building. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I know I'm super excited to be able to bring your expertise on to help inform. I'm just curious, for those who have not had the opportunity to meet you, if you had to kind of capture, what is the role of technology in a municipality? And what are our opportunities to really, improve maybe the individual neighbor or resident experience? Just kind of curious, high level vision, something to be excited about.
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and the world is changing so fast right now that it's a really difficult one to answer without understanding the landscape better. But I will say that there's a lot of areas where I think that I can engage. This job has the opportunity for an enormous amount of community engagement as we look at the use of artificial intelligence, as we look at cybersecurity needs, as we look at the opportunity to just engage with the community on a deeper level. Using data and analytics, I think that there's just an enormous amount of opportunity there for us as an organization.
I love that. Thank you for highlighting that. I think it's one of the things that I have really appreciated about all of the work I've seen from the city so far, trying to both consolidate opportunities for folks to be aware, here's how you can give input to our various surveys by putting them all on shape, but then also being able to create opportunities for folks to get in contact with the right person without navigating through layers and layers of web pages through the MySLC app. I really do think that, as much as we have capacity between council as well as, the administration and all the amazing people who work for Salt Lake City, that our city is as strong as the people who are invested in it. And so however we can use technology to be able to facilitate those communications. I'm excited about that. And similarly, the ways that we can also use that technology to make sure the message is out there when we need to amplify a change in policy or an opportunity that exists within the city. I would just love to hear your vision and your ideas, especially as you spend more time here moving forward. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I'll just respond very briefly. I think one of the places where we can really help a lot, not just in a municipal organization, but everywhere, is cutting down on the number of steps it takes to get to a service, right? It's so simple and so frustrating, and I don't know how big that problem is here, or even if it is a significant problem, but generally speaking, it's something we definitely saw in the county, where just constituents having to take more steps than was really necessary frustrates them and leaves them with a bit of a bad taste in their mouth.
Councilmember Petro?
Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I think one of the things in reference to the position you're going to fill is how woefully unprepared I feel as a policymaker to step into questions like the AI space, like data protection, like mass surveillance, and how we balance that with civil liberties. So for me, moving forward, I would really love to see the proactivity out of the department that I haven't asked for yet around opportunities for us to engage with this, especially as relates to our public safety apparatus. I was telling the police department the other day, the moment that a police person got off of a horse and got into a car, there was a policy that had to be made there about how that car didn't disproportionately burden the people who might not have cars, how it would be used. And now we have like everything from when you can use your sirens and policy all the way through to how far away you can drive it when you go home at night. I don't feel like we have anything close to that I'm familiar with, that I'm fluent with, that I'm comfortable with, as pertains to the AI implementations, as pertains to safeguarding, as pertains to how we're counterbalancing a sector of development that is rushing products to market without a quality control on the back end that even our best intended practitioners of the city might not be able to counteract. So I know these are really deep, hypothetical. There are probably PhD dissertations right now being written on them. Mm-hmm. But I do think moving forward, in addition to us just delegating to you saying, keep our city safe, I think there is going to be, at least from me, a request to interact on this more so that I can become more fluent, so that I can know what questions to be asking and how to protect constituents and neighbors in a more meaningful way from a landscape that seems to be changing by the moment.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And what I will say is, most policies, if you're lucky, they're sort of revamped every 5 years and sometimes every 20 or 30. AI is a space, when I put forward the AI policy, and we worked with a group of elected officials, including council at the county and other folks, we made it very clear that this was going to be one where we're going to be coming back probably annually, maybe even more often than that. And so I would really look forward to that partnership to be able to develop these things and hit it over and over again, because we're not going to get it right the first time. Mm-hmm.
I would like to thank you so much for being here. You're also joining, one of the best teams the city has. Not only they're able to keep up with the concerns of different departments and their needs, the very individual needs that each department has for public engagement, for data security, and all of these aspects, but also put up with our passwords being locked out all the time, and trying to remember how to log into our email. So it's actually quite impressive what the team does. Mm-hmm. Also keeping these microphones working and the sound working in this and in the chambers is always shockingly complicated, but it makes sense. And we're always very thankful to the team of the incredible effort that they put on to make sure that we are an accessible city. And we'd love to hear more, even a better vision to accomplish that transparency that our public needs.
Well, I think it's important to maintain the customer service focus. And what I will say is, generally speaking, as I've stepped into roles throughout my career, there's always been a bit of a turnaround situation where it's, hey, the team is struggling and they really need some help to get focused. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing that here, right? So I'm going to be a little bit of a fish out of water because I don't know what
Know the county, that's for sure. I tell you that. I used to work for the county too. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to become part of the consent agenda tonight, so you don't have to attend. To that will be our final step on the process.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and welcome to the team.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Moving on right now to item number 9, an informational item, and this is the legislative affair briefing, and is a follow-up. As you know, is the team here? Oh yes, Angela Price, policy director for the legislative team, is joining us at the table. I want to highlight that the state legislature is in session, and when the session is happening, there's a lot of bills that are being discussed. And a lot of things happen, and Angela leads our voice with our legislative team. So, Angela, it's your time.
Thank you. It's good to see you all. Happy to be here with you this evening. I have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to jump right in if that's okay.
Please.
Chair, would you still like me to take 15 minutes?
Yes, I actually budgeted 20, but
Oh, okay,
let's see.
perfect. So I will try to get through my portion in 15 or so, and then leave some time for you guys. Great. First, I want to start by saying that for the public, if you want to see what we're tracking, you can go to slc.gov/attorney/legislative-affairs. I thought we had a simpler hyperlink as I'm looking at that. So
It's slc.gov/legislative affairs.
slc.gov/legislative
It's
affairs.
a redirect to that page.
It will redirect you. Okay. I was just pulling that up really quickly and it's like, I feel like we did something different there. Okay. So I'm going to start with taxes. And there's a lot happening in the tax space. And so I'm going to run through all of these bills. These will be negotiated probably until the gavel bangs on March 7th. But there are components, I think, of each bill. Well, I shouldn't say of each, components of some of the bills that are gaining a little bit more traction than components of other bills. So let's start with HB 425, local government fee amendments by Representative Karen Peterson. This is the tough bill. We've been working on this bill for over 2 years and finally have gotten to a place of negotiation. We, as in the Utah League of Cities and Towns. The bill has a process for imposition for a transportation utility fee or a TUF, which would require a study, notice, hearing, dedicated account, annual review, and it needs to be reimposed every 10 years. So even if you don't change the study, you still need to reimpose it every 10 years. It defines the case law fee standard for amount charged, that it must be reasonably related to services provided. And then it also addresses broadband and public safety fees, but those are not applicable to Salt Lake. It changes some of the changes. So that has been kind of standard language that we've seen in this bill for the past 2 years. The new information in the bill this year is the methodology and data that we have to provide. So we do traffic counts, trip generation, and vehicle types. We can't base a fee on the assessed value of property or ownership, and the fee shall not consider the lowest traffic day of the week. That part is still being worked out. There's an appeal process. This was just released and it's still in rules. Any questions on transportation utility fees? Okay. Chair, would you like me to do questions at each bill or at the end?
Listen, if it gets out of hand, it takes too much time, but maybe we just keep it going. Councilmember Petro has a question.
Okay.
I just want to confirm, I can't remember what we said. When we say lowest traffic day of the week, is that per entity or is that for a generalized locality? Like, we're talking about the Fair Park area. If the fewest number of cars move through the Fair Park area on a Sunday, are we not counting anything on a Sunday? Or is it like Smith's gets counted, but on Sunday they have the fewest trips, so they don't get counted on Sunday, but another entity might be counted?
Yeah. Did you want to weigh in on that, Jen?
The way I understand it from the discussions that we've had is that it's per type of use. So like each the study that we would do to calculate what fees would have, like, for example, residential use, single-family residential use. It would have like multifamily residential use. There might be a use for commercial that's separate from institutional, educational, that kind of thing. So each one of those would have a lowest traffic count day.
Okay, thank you.
And that part is still being negotiated. I think that's kind of one of the hinging points still on where the league and others are at.
Yeah, I'd be interested in the methodology that they intend to use as well for that.
Okay, SB 97 property tax amendments. This bill was subbed in committee and the sub passed out of committee. This is Senator McKay's legislation. It would have a 5% cap on property tax increase for city budget. That part is likely coming out. That's what he said in committee. It changes locally assessed new growth. It changes how project area new growth for certain entities and does not include a change in value for tangible personal property. The sub 1 has the fund balance reduced from 35 to 25%. It has a residential exemption of 1 per household. It states that property tax cannot be in reserve fund for capital improvements. It has certified tax rate, won't include interest from investment. And as I said, this is one of those big kind of broad sweeping tax bills that there are pieces in here that will likely move forward, and there are pieces in here that will likely not move forward. For us, one of our biggest concerns obviously is the tax on, the cap on property tax for the city, and then also the changes around new growth tax and how that would impact the city budget, specifically with developments like SEG going in. Jen, did you want to add something?
Just to emphasize that for council members, especially the type of new growth we see in the city is so intense, meaning, we'll go from a piece of property that doesn't have anything to a 30-story apartment building with lots of people that live in it that need police and fire. And so we've made the case to several legislators that that's how we fund the growing service needs in the city. And I think several of the other cities are making that same point. I wanted to just make one other comment on the residential exemption. So this is a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I think there are huge implications for residents and for affordability. So it's kind of, there's two sides to the coin. It would mean that if you're a person who owns property and you live in your house, that is your primary residence. And let's say you have several rental properties that you rent out, you would be taxed as if those properties were commercial property. So at the full value of the property. So that would increase the tax bill for those folks. But if you remember how truth in taxation works, we don't necessarily get any more money. It just kind of shifts around the burden of that pie. And there's no way to really guarantee that the landlord is not going to pass that cost increase on to the renter. And so that's one of the discussion points that was brought up at the league meeting Monday that I thought was a good point. And just I think illustrates the unintended consequences of basically all of these conversations. So.
Thankfully, we have the most brilliant tax expert here, Jen Bruno and Mary Beth Thompson.
This bill, it seems to be evolving quite a lot because of the pushback from every city in the state. And I would like to, I was just looking at the tracker in the website and it's very old. So can we make sure for the public sake that we have an updated tracker on the website? This one is from January 16th.
Yeah, I think they are supposed to be updating it every Friday is my understanding.
Yeah, that's 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, I'll make sure they do that.
I would love to, that one is certainly a big problem. Face value, maybe many people might think that capping taxes is a good thing, but the unintended consequences of this one it's very problematic for our city and every city in the state. So we're very concerned about that. So thank you for the update on it.
Sorry.
I also think with all of the tax bills, because there's a couple others that we heard about at LPC this week, I'm finding it really problematic that at no point in any of these tax deliberations is there the inclusion, this came up with the PID bill, the the TIF bill. At no point in any of these tax bills is there a consideration for the current situation of the city in reference to other preemptions. And so what's likely to happen in these is death by 1,000 paper cuts, since each developer is just like, well, I just need a little bit off of this one for this parking structure. I just need a little bit off of this one. And then in a city like ours, well, in a district like mine that has 2 authorities that are already preempting taxation, we're literally not only delaying a new growth payout, because new growth doesn't pay for itself, our current residents pay for the new growth, and then the new growth helps pay moving forward. But this puts us in a position where current residents pay for the new growth and then subsidize it indefinitely, and we never will refill that cup. So it feels really anathema to the Utah ethos anyway, to like honor what was here and our heritage and the people who established this. But in any of these bills and any of these negotiations, I really do think there has to be a statement of city's current position. Like, no one would make a deal in the private sector without a statement of position for an entity, and everyone's really willing to spend our money without an accounting for if there's money to be spent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. All right, HB 161, property tax modifications by Representative Kofod. This changes the residential exemption from 55% of its value to 40% of its value. And that additional property tax exemption shift would move to commercial. It requires a constitutional amendment. This is still in rules. HB 236, Truth in Taxation Amendments by Representative Karen Peterson. This would require a secondary Truth in Taxation meeting in May or June. And then it would also require 2 different budgets not adopted. You still have to adopt a budget, but we have to prepare 2 budgets. One would be a tentative operating budget that includes the personal proposed property tax increase, and one that doesn't. This is passed out of House and Revenue Tax Committee, and it's on the 3rd reading calendar for the House. And then the last one, and then
just for the council members who haven't been in the legislative subcommittee discussions or LPC, our staff and finance have been working closely with league staff on how we can navigate this bill and what the representative is trying to accomplish in the bill. Which is trying to make the truth in taxation hearing that usually happens in August more, the term meaningful is often used, that, you know, by then all the decisions have been made, and so the public maybe not feel as heard. We've emphasized with league staff how in our form of government, adopting 2 budgets would be very, very difficult. And so I think that, to Angela's point, that term adopt is the term that is still being massaged, because right now we just we're trying to figure out how to navigate it and whether we can. And then even more fun, it will likely be effective for this budget season. So whatever ends up happening, we will have to figure it out quickly. So,
yeah.
Imagine having to read 2 budgets. You know, the concern here is an interesting one. You know, I think it's just a public education piece that, you know, that could solve this. But I appreciate you following up with this bill. Can keep going.
Okay, great. The last tax bill is HB 449, Utah Taxpayer Oversight of Government Spending Amendments by Representative Auxier. This would require voter approval for an increase in revenue. It prohibits the city from spending more than the fiscal year's budget adjusted for inclination plus any new tax increases passed by the voters. Requires a refund if the previous year's fiscal budget is exceeded, and prohibits the state from imposing new requirements on cities without funding. This is also in rules still and just was released. Any questions? Well, let me just say one last thing on the tax bills. There's a brain trust that has been formed to help the legislature navigate the numerous tax bills that have been proposed by various legislators. our concerns about new growth and the specific dynamics in Salt Lake City around districts and things that we have here have been being conveyed in those working groups. And also, anytime we have a chance to meet with a legislator, we are also bringing that up. We will likely have to negotiate and accept some tax policy that might not be great, but it will be the less bad of the tax policy. So more to come there. We're going to have a big tax run through on legislative subcommittee this week as well with Kate. Anything else on taxes, or I'll move to transportation?
We'd love to hear back about what you are hearing on the ground about any tax cuts that the state might want to offer this year. And they've been doing that every year for the last several years. But at the same time, putting on the back of our neighbors here in Salt Lake and across many municipalities, more services and unfunded mandates. So, while they're giving, $40 a year to all of us at the end of the year, we are paying more and stretching our little tax dollars to do more services. So are they looking into doing another tax cut? Do you know?
Yeah, there is proposal for income tax cut, and there's also a proposal for a gas tax cut. The gas tax, we are at a record number of bills. It's a little terrifying that Senate bills are already in the 240s and House bills are in the 460s, 470s. And we still don't have a lot of the really big bills out yet, the gas tax being one of them. So there are some discussions in that space for sure.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's like Christmas every day. Okay, transportation, SB 197, transportation governance amendments. This is Senator Harper's legislation that changes the leadership structure of UTA. It has an executive director that reports directly to the governor. It removes the 3-trustee model and creates a transit commission similar to the transportation commission that exists under UDOT. It removes local representation from the Transit Commission, although the Council of Governments, or COG, is allowed to nominate an individual to the governor for consideration. So Salt Lake County would get an opportunity to nominate nominate an individual that would go to the governor. Right now, the legislation is very specific that no elected officials are allowed to be appointed, either from the legislature or from local government. It would infuse money into UTA and transit projects. And from Salt Lake City's perspective, we're concerned about this legislation. I think there's support around this new model and ways to improve transit throughout the state. One of our concerns that we've been conveying, or our partners have been conveying for us, is that Salt Lake City invests quite a bit of money into shoring up UTA services within our city, both through our West Side program that we offer, the student passes, the employee passes. And so we want to ensure that we still have the ability to have that really strong partnership with UTA in the city, and that we're able to continue providing those services. This is passed out of committee on Friday, but there are still negotiations ongoing. Bill, any questions on this one?
Certainly, problematic, and especially because of those commitments that we've been able to work with UTA in the past, and to enhance services, bus services on the west side, the on-call services that we have right now, also services the west side and other parts of town. It's concerning that a future position might not see the value on those, and I appreciate you following this legislation.
Great, thank you. SB 242, transportation amendments by Senator Harper. This is the big transportation omnibus bill. This literally is hot off the press maybe 2 hours ago, so I want to caveat this has been covered by the media, and the city is still very much reviewing this bill because we literally just got it. But what I will say is that the legislation proposes to repeal all of the provisions in SB 195, which was the legislation from I should clarify, repeals all of the provisions in SB 95 that are directed towards Salt Lake City, not the entire big transportation omnibus bill. So SB 195 was the road bill from the 2025 session that would require the city to do a study with UDOT and required the city to also do a mobility plan. It requires the city to enter into an agreement with UDOT to memorialize what was in the UDOT report presented in October and the city's written response presented in November. Both of those were provisions that were required in the 2025 legislation. Those have been completed, which is why that part of the legislation is being repealed. It also requires that we enter into that agreement by January 1st of 2027 and sets out parameters of items that need to be included in that agreement with UDOT. It expands the study area that was outlined in the previous iteration of the last year. And that expansion is, it's still, the eastern boundary is still Foothill, and then it expands to Redwood Road. The northern boundary is still 600 North, and then it expands to the southern boundary of the city. It amends the definition of highway reduction strategy and adds in a traffic calming definition. It requires that the critical routes map be adopted, and it distinguishes what tier 1 through 4 roads are, and that also must be posted on the city's website. Just to put a reminder there, the critical routes map was proposed in the UDOT study that was presented to the Transportation Interim Committee in October, and also in the city's response that we agreed to the UDOT critical routes map and our presentation in November to the Transportation Interim Committee. And then it also requires an annual report to the Transportation Interim Committee. As I said, this was just released, so we're still doing a full analysis of how this will impact the city.
Councilmember Lopez.
Thanks. I wanted to ask, because I know we haven't decided how we're going to use the $100 million from the SCG, from the SECC, but would that be something we should be looking at in case we wanted to use it ever for UTA-related projects or anything else? So that's the collection of the
yeah.
It's over the 30 years. It would be the ticket, the excess ticket fee.
Oh, the ticket fee.
The ticket holder
that
fee.
was limited to several uses outlined in the agreement, the participation agreement we have with SEG.
Correct.
So it's not transit. It was I'm blanking on it.
I thought we
right
did
now.
include transit.
Affordable housing, public art. I don't know that transit was part of it, but here's
Okay.
what we'll do. I'll pull out the agreement and refresh my memory.
You're
on
good.
it.
I thought transit was a part of it, and I just wanted to make sure that didn't interfere with that.
Right. We also have not started receiving that, and I think the estimates have changed a little bit since the first kind of rounds of discussion. So I just want to make sure the expectation isn't 100 million, like it's actually going to happen.
Thank you. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
we'll just have to, and the other consideration that I know Mary Beth's team is working on is, to the extent that it fluctuates, that limits our ability to like bond with that money up front, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it would otherwise be like a year-to-year allocation of kind of like you guys do with the NOFA.
Got it. Okay.
For
Thank you for
affordable housing. Yeah.
I would love to, certainly this bill, there's a lot of questions I have about it. When it talks about impacts of traffic calming, is something that I am very interested in having conversations with some legislators about those.
Mm-hmm.
I thought last year the agreement got to a place where we paid for some studies, and UTAs run some studies related to the impact of some of these measures, and they issue those responses. So it's almost like I would like to know, are we still listening to those studies that were commissioned? Are we using that feedback? Or, and by we, are the legislators using that feedback?
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought we had some sort of general vision where we wanted to be and understood what their concerns were. For sure, I want to make sure that we are sort of talking about the same issues and understanding what they're saying at the same time. Also, for the sake of transparency, I would love to understand what potentially is the impact to our city, even financially, to what this bill does face value. And I would like to understand how we are going to pay for something like that. That's probably beyond, your department, but I would like to try to figure out if that's even possible. So I appreciate you following up with this bill. Oh yes, Councilmember Petro.
I also, as much as we disliked last year's, at least there was a unified goal, which was protecting the commercial center and making sure, by expanding this to Redwood, the criteria for what is needed is so drastically different. And I spoke to several influential people about this bill who tried to gain my support for including the West Side, and I still abjectly do not. We do not have traffic calming infrastructure. We knew this historically. Our own studies proved it. So the needs and the actual purpose of our work on the West Side is materially different than what it is in a commercial center. And I don't trust that a state level can see the nuance of a neighborhood by neighborhood analysis that needs to be done. And so from my vantage point, there cannot be enough vigilance over protecting our neighborhood. Since I've lived here in 2013, and Miss Margaret, correct me if I'm wrong, we have had 3 children killed on 500 North because of driving, and that number has not increased since we implemented traffic calming measures, as mild as they are. I don't trust that someone who operates at the state, just by virtue of where they operate, just by virtue of why we have different levels of government, can understand the neighborhood by neighborhood analysis. And Miss Margaret has verified and validated everything. She's my OG. So I know I'm standing on firm ground, but please help us advocate. I cannot imagine ceding even an inch that we've gained for our West Side traffic calming.
Councilmember Young.
Thank you. I just want to support Councilmember Petro in that statement. When we get a phone call or have a concern that comes in related to one of our neighborhood roads, I drive by it. Like, that is my natural reaction. It's like, great, what's the concern? I'm going to go to that location. I'm familiar with the neighborhoods, and we can kind of assess, what's happening and what the opportunities are. When you start implementing layer upon layer upon layer of, government levels that need to be involved in that space, now all of the sudden, instead of saying, okay, went and checked it out, you're right, there does need to be a solution. Now instead I'm sending constituents to representatives and or leaders who don't necessarily live in the neighborhood, aren't as familiar with the city. And it becomes yet one more outreach for help and support on a long list of needs and expectations that they have. In dealing with even the existing infrastructure and roles and responsibilities of 7th East, we've found a lot of challenges in terms of being able to address neighbor concerns, and a lot of our neighbors feeling bounced around, where they're like, okay, well, you're saying it's not you and you're sending me to them, but they're saying it's not really us, and maybe we should go back, to a different department. And I appreciate that a lot of our state leaders haven't had that direct experience because that's not a part of their role of governance, is really keeping an eye on our streets and the transportation systems in the neighborhoods. But anything you can help us with in terms of just expressing some of the realities of what we're experiencing already in a day-to-day space. And that honestly, we're looking for efficiency. We're looking for the ability to cut down on red tape, and we really just want to see the ability to respond to neighborhood issues to keep our families safe. Thank you.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yeah, thank you. I tell the constituents and people that one of the most difficult parts about being on city council is the text updates that we get at all times of day or night whenever there's a critical incident that happens in the city, and that includes when people get hit by cars. And we just all got that message yesterday of an elderly woman who was hit by a car near Uinta Elementary School and is in critical condition from that. And when I look at the statistics for each year, and we're having I think last year was 19 either deaths or serious bodily injuries between pedestrians and traffic. I don't know how this, why would the state want us to not address one of the leading causes of death in the city? Like, if it was a murder rate, we would be having an entirely different conversation about the state wanting us to do more to try to bring that number down. So of the things that are within our ability to control, you know, we don't regulate healthcare, we don't regulate all of those things, but crime and traffic are fundamental to what we're doing, and all we're trying to do here is preserve people's lives, and the people that are typically dying in these auto-ped accidents are people that are already disabled, people that are elderly, children. Can we get some of the families of these individuals to come and speak to legislators to talk about, you know, and put a face to what it is that we're trying to do? Because I don't, and I also think it's, we have to emphasize that this is inextricably linked to adding more housing downtown and in our city, which we're trying to do so that we don't have to close any more schools. But families don't want to live in a place where they can't bike safely, where they can't walk safely. And we have to be able to balance the need for housing and livability with the fact that people need to be able to drive downtown. And that's all that we're asking to do here. But I really would like for any individuals that are listening that have any families that have been impacted by one of these deaths, that can reach out to legislators and explain that, you know, trying to reduce this number is one of our first and foremost duties as council members. And I don't know why we would be working against each other on that, on protecting life, especially those of our most vulnerable.
We obviously feel very strongly about this, and you know, just to add, and you know, and I'm surprised that Councilmember Dugan didn't say a thing, but you know, this has been a response. We have responded to thousands of calls, emails, and sometimes our own experiences, our own friends' experiences of, you know, walking through the streets or biking through the streets or even driving and realizing that this is a very unsafe intersection or block. And we made an effort to lead in this matter, with the administration taking big focus on this, and we have funded it. And we want more time to prove the point. Would love for more neighbors to use them, for more neighbors to speak up for them. I see one of the protected bike lanes a block from my house being used every day more time, you know, with kids, and that was not a street that was safe at all before. And I ache to see bills like this, and I would love to try to coordinate a better response on what we are trying to achieve here to make our city safe. So thank you.
Thank you. I know I'm at time. I have police and homelessness, but I'm happy to shut down so you guys.
Yeah,
Are you good?
If you want to go through a few other wonderful bills, we'd love to hear.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, that bill literally just came out, so I think we can report back on what local control you guys still have over neighborhood roads. I think those are really good points that you've raised, and so I'll pass that along.
And I have a deep appreciation for Senator Harper.
And
so
Mr. Chair,
I'm looking forward to it.
Since you told me that I should be speaking, you all made great comments, and I totally appreciate that, because when I sit in the league board meetings, I can also relay that same message to them. We've already had conversations about this bill, and come up with a lot of comments before, which are very similar to the ones you've kind of said here. So appreciate that all, and we'll do our damnedest.
Before we move on, what's the number of that bill again? Sorry. SB 242. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. HB 287, driver privilege cards by Representative Lee. This revokes the driver privilege cards after May 6th of this year. It requires police to report an individual to ICE if they're undocumented and in a car accident. This bill is heavily opposed by law enforcement, both by the chiefs and by LELC, which is the law enforcement working group, and obviously by our PD and our city as well. It's still in rules. And there's also a lot of bills in the PD has a lot of bills in general. So send vibes to our police team that's reviewing bills and our attorneys. But there are several bills also targeting the utilization of various technology and requiring reporting to the state, requiring approval by the state if we use certain technology. And I think there's a lot of kind of split around that technology, both from like how is that data being stored and used and potentially shared within entities that we may not want that information to be shared with, versus how can our law enforcement agencies use that information to be able to keep our streets safe and police. So there's a lot of kind of push and pull in that space. And then I'll just quickly hit on homelessness as well. HB 205, Substance Abuse Intervention Amendments by Representative Clancy. This creates off-limit areas for people convicted of drug offenses and limits the public places that needle exchange programs can operate in. This passed out of committee yesterday, and our police chief, Chief Red, spoke in support of that legislation. SB 137, the Homeless Service Board Amendments by Senator Plum, adds physical and mental health representation to the Utah Homeless Services Board, and that is also passed out of committee. And then SB 239, State Homeless Campus Amendments by Senator Escamilla. That was also just released this afternoon, so we're still analyzing this legislation. But essentially it puts guardrails around the state homeless campus by requiring the state homeless coordinator to work with the Utah Homeless Services Board to create a comprehensive service plan for the campus, and gives the Homeless Service Ombudsman oversight and investigative power over campus operations. It also requires our law enforcement and our fire to report any incidents that happen at the campus. And again, as I said, that was just introduced today, so we're still analyzing that for how it impacts the city. I do have some land use stuff, but I think we're kind of at time, so.
Is there any resemblance of funding for the campus conversations?
No.
Yeah. So it seems like there's no clear funding to make this happen.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So is there any conversations about this, or is it just kind of dead right now?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think this will also be one of those bills that, like, topics that kind of go till the end of the session. I think there's sort of two, and I mean, use the word camp, which maybe, no pun intended on that, but I think there's kind of two camps, one of, shoring up existing services, and one of like having this new campus model. And without adequate resources, neither one of those really are successful. So I think the conversation is really focused around funding and how we can shore up whatever model it is that moves forward.
Yeah. And certainly from the public safety plan and the pieces that they needed to happen from the state level and the county level, we also needed, beds available. That was, many of us have concerns about that project, but ultimately it was accomplishing some pieces of what we wanted to accomplish. Certainly the process, the location, we had a lot of thoughts and opinions about this. But So is there, are we set for failure again, right? Where there's not going to be beds available, and yet we have to, we're mandated to enforce on impossible tasks. And certainly this is the conversation you have all the time over there, but I would love any updates if you hear of anything.
Yeah, and I know Chief Red has been having those conversations, as has the mayor and other entities as well. It's hard to enforce when we don't have a place for people to go, and that's always been an issue. So that makes it very challenging for our police officers and certainly the individuals that are on the streets.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for taking up so much time on your agenda. And I'm always here if you guys have any questions or concerns or want updates on certain bills, let me know.
We are here for you. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Jesus.
You guys have been great, and we appreciate you. And we are, we joke we're like a quarter of the way through the session and maybe like 2% through the work. So give lots of vibes to our department directors and our attorneys who are reading a lot of legislation and providing us feedback. So thank you all.
On behalf of every resident of Salt Lake City and every visitor of the city and every future resident of the city, I thank you for the work that you do and the team behind you to advocate for our values, our rights, and making sure that we are sharing, we're doing a good job here together. So thank you.
Thank you for those kind words.
Okay, moving on to number 10, board appointment, Historical Landmark Commission. Stephen Cornell joining us here at the table, and you have a few minutes to tell us why do you want to join the Historic Landmark Commission. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I am a preservation architect, and I've spent my career practicing that portion of architecture since I came to Salt Lake in 2005. I've worked for various firms practicing preservation. I'm currently teaching full-time at Utah Valley University. We're attempting to get a preservation program set up and running down there for that university, which is exciting. I think what really compelled me to come before you today is that my good friend and colleague John Uwanowski was on the Landmarks Commission, and he recently has moved away, and so there's an open position for an architect, and I thought that would be a good opportunity for me to come and fill that position. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much for being here. Any comments, council members?
I'm just always appreciative of people volunteering for such specialties of this, because there's not many of you guys around, or you people, you have that skill, and we need to fill those holes. And it's just wonderful that someone steps up to fill that responsibility. And so I thank you very much for doing that.
Happy to do it.
So the process here, thank you for volunteering. It really makes a difference. Our city really thrives with the feedback and the input from members like you.
Sure.
I'm sure you could do a million other things, but it means a lot to shape this city that we love together. The process here goes. We're going to put you on the consent agenda tonight, so you don't have to attend at all. And the staff from the administration will let you know the next steps when that's done.
Great.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Council members, now we're moving on to the standing items. Any reports from you, Vice Chair?
So we talked about this earlier during our retreat follow-up, but I just wanted to signal to other council members that we wanted to put together and are beginning to put together the very early designs of a working group to address some of the community concerns that have come before us regarding immigration enforcement efforts. We envision this working group to really be a place where we convene interested stakeholders like community members, members of the legal community, the business community, nonprofits, and other possible government agencies who are focused on this topic. And really the intention is to think about what we might be able to do within our power regarding this topic. So, Chair, I don't know if there's more that you'd like to add, but just that this is very early stages and that there's more to be fleshed out in this plan.
Yeah, and ultimately is to channel the feedback and to sort through the things that are happening and to understand what can we do. But it goes beyond, just it's a support generally to our community, and it is my hope that we can build the trust with our community and between all of us and the members of the organizations that are actually doing the work every day to understand what really is needed. So I'm excited to get to a place where those meetings starts happening more often. And all of us have worked on specific issues already the last several weeks. So I thank you for your patience on that, and we hear you, and we hear the community desires to do something that is meaningful, and we're going to be working on putting our effort on meaningful things. Now, report and announcements from the Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple. Annually, each council member may opt to use the public utility billing for outreach purposes once per calendar year. There are months of April, August, and December have been identified, and so let staff know if you would like to include your newsletter in one of those public utilities billings. We did get a question from council member recently about what the cost difference is between doing the public utilities billing and then just doing a district-wide mailing, and so that's provided below. As you can see, they're slightly different based on like printing and how many households they're mailed to, things like that. So I think everyone agrees the public utilities newsletter is much more economical, but it also may have less impact, right? It might not be as easily seen as a direct mail billing, but that's a balance for you guys to evaluate. So just let your constituent liaison know if you want to, which direction you want to go and which month you want to sign up for. And that's it. I open my bills, every time. I love to see how much water I'm using in comparison with the previous year. I discovered I had a water leak in my house years ago because of that, by the way. I spend more water in 1 month than like half the year, which is insane that I didn't know, but it was just leaking in the street, in my portion of the street, and unfortunately, but so it's actually a very useful place, but I understand that not everybody does. So. Or if you, if you get the e-statement, it can also be very easy to ignore all of the PDF attachments to your e-statement.
Also, the e-version also comes with the PDF that we send?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Awesome. Well, council members, thank you. But now we're going to move. I will need a closed meeting motion, and staff has highlighted with our attorney's feedback that it's not closed session what we go to, is a closed meeting, and we have to really try to remember that. I will be, have a hard time with my words sometimes, but I hope that we can all remember that it's a closed meeting. So, and the purpose of the closed meeting is attorney-client matters. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into meeting for the purpose of discussing attorney-client matters.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Wharton and a second by Councilmember Lopez Chavez. I'm going to call the question. Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Petro?
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes, Lopez Chavez.
Lopez Chavez, sorry. Councilmember Wharton?
Yay.
Councilmember Carlson?
Aye.
And
You didn't say I couldn't say
I'm an
yay.
aye as well. This motion carries unanimously. We're in a closed session. Meeting.
I said yay, not yes.